Have you ever wondered, what are all the verb tenses in English? How many are there anyway? Well, there are 12, and in this video, I'm going to show you all 12 verb tenses, how to form them, and when to use them. We will start with the 3 simple tenses. And let's start with present simple. We use present simple to talk about routines, habits, things that are generally true, and facts. For example, it rains a lot in the summer. This is a fact. Or blue and yellow make green. Fact. Mike calls his mother every day. This is a habit. Or I drink coffee every morning. This is my routine. Notice that with present simple, we just use the verb in its base form, like make or drink. Or we might have an S on the verb, like rains, calls. If our subject is he, like Mike, she, or it, like it rains. To make the present simple negative, we will use do not plus our verb, or the contraction don't, or does not, or doesn't plus the verb. For example, it doesn't rain a lot in the summer. I don't drink coffee at night. The next verb tense is simple past. We use simple past to talk about something that started and ended in the past. For example, it rained yesterday. I drank coffee yesterday. Mike talked to his mother yesterday. The kids slept for 5 hours. So notice the structure here. With regular verbs, we use ed, like talked and rained. We also have a large number of irregular verbs in the simple past, and for those we usually have a different word completely. So the past form of drink is drank, or the past form of sleep is slept. To make the past simple negative, we will use did not plus the base verb, or we can use the contraction didn't. For example, the kids didn't sleep long, or I didn't drink tea. So notice that we can use the same form for every verb. We're going to use did not or didn't and the base form of the verb, even if our verb is regular or irregular. It's did not or didn't, if you want to use the contraction, and the base verb. And this is simple past. This is for an action that started and ended in the past. The next is simple future. This is for some action or thing which will occur in the future. For example, I will drink coffee tomorrow. Mike will call his mother tomorrow. She will be happy when he calls. So here we're going to use will and the base form of the verb. For example, will drink, will call, will be. To make this negative, we can use will not or the contraction won't. For example, it will not rain next week, or it won't rain next week. Mike will not talk to his sister. Mike won't talk to his sister. So you can form the negative with will not and the base verb, or won't and the base verb. And there's actually one more construction you can use to talk about future, and that's going to. You can say, Mike is going to call his mother tomorrow. And that means the same here as Mike will call his mother tomorrow. Or, I'm going to drink coffee tomorrow, which is the same as I will drink coffee tomorrow. For negative, we will just use not or a contraction with the verb be. We can say, Mike isn't going to talk to his sister. Mike is not going to talk to his sister. Or Mike's not going to talk to his sister. I am not going to drink tea tomorrow. I'm not going to drink tea tomorrow. Now let's talk about the progressive tenses. These are also called continuous tenses. Progressive or continuous tenses are about action. Action in progress at a specific time. We can talk about action in progress at the present time, action that was in progress at a time in the past, or action that will be in progress at a specific time in the future. And with all of these tenses, we are going to use a form of the verb be, and then our main verb with its ing form. Let's look first at present progressive. Present progressive talks about an action that is in progress right now at the present time. For example, Karen is sleeping. We can say it's 10 o'clock. Karen is sleeping. She started sleeping at maybe 9:30 and she is currently sleeping. Karen is sleeping right now. To make it negative, I would say Karen isn't sleeping or Karen is not sleeping. To talk about the past, I'm going to use a past form of the verb be. For example, Karen was sleeping. I might say, Karen was sleeping when her phone rang. She started sleeping before the phone rang, and when the phone rang at this moment in the past, she was sleeping. So I'm talking about an action that was in progress at some point in the past. And to make it negative, I use a negative form of the verb be. So here I would say wasn't. Karen wasn't sleeping at 9 o'clock last night. So with future progressive, I use this verb tense to talk about an action that will be in progress at a specific time in the future. For example, at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, Karen will be eating breakfast. This action will be in progress at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. I can say Karen will be eating breakfast, or I can say Karen is going to be eating breakfast. To make it negative, I can use will not or won't. For example, Karen won't be sleeping at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Or Karen will not be sleeping at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. I can also use going to. Karen is not going to be sleeping. Karen isn't going to be sleeping. Karen's not going to be sleeping at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. So we are talking about an action that will be or will not be in progress at a specific point in the future. This is future progressive. And now we will look at the perfect tenses. Again, these come in a group of three. We have present, past, and future perfect. With the perfect tenses, we form them with a form of the verb have, either the present, past, or future form of have, and a past participle. A past participle of a regular verb ends with ed. A past participle of an irregular verb will be a different form of that verb completely. With the perfect tenses, time relationship is very important. With present perfect, we are saying that some action happened before now, or that something started in the past and continues to now. With past perfect, we are showing that one event happened before another event, both in the past. And with future perfect, we are saying that one event will happen before another event, both in the future. Let's look at present perfect first. The kids have eaten lunch. I use have, the present form of have, and eaten. This is the past participle of the verb eat. The kids have eaten lunch. This tells me that the kids ate lunch before now, but it doesn't tell me when they ate lunch, just that this event happened before now. Laura has traveled all over the world. This tells me that she traveled before now. The exact time is not important to the person who's saying this sentence, but what is important is that this action happened before now. Here is another use of present perfect. Luke and James have lived in Houston for 3 years. This means that Luke and James started to live in Houston 3 years ago, and that they live in Houston now. This started in the past, 3 years ago, and continues now. Luke and James have lived in Houston for 3 years. Or, Janet has worked here since October. She started to work here in October and she works here now. Janet has worked here since October. When we use present perfect with for or since, this has the meaning that something started in the past and is still true now. To make present perfect negative, I'm going to use the word not. For example, the kids have not eaten dinner. Or I'm going to use the contraction haven't. The kids haven't eaten dinner. Or Janet has not worked here long. Or the contraction hasn't. Janet hasn't worked here long. So remember, time relationship is important. It either means something happened before now, and this is what's important to the speaker, or something started in the past and continues to the present. This is when we use since or for with present perfect. And now let's look at past perfect. We form past perfect with the past form of have, which is had, and again, past participle. For example, Leo had cooked dinner when his friends arrived. This means that Leo cooked the dinner first, and then his friends arrived. Both of these events occurred in the past. So sometimes students ask me, why do we have this verb tense? Can we just say, Leo cooked dinner, then his friends arrived? Yes, you can. You can just use simple past and say, Leo cooked dinner, and then his friends arrived. But sometimes it's useful to have more than one way to say something, especially if you are writing and you want to make your writing more interesting. by sometimes using different patterns. Also, a lot of times people use this construction, past perfect, in writing if it lets you say the same idea using a shorter group of words, using fewer words. So you don't have to use past perfect, but you do want to be sure that you understand what it means if you read it. Another use we have of past perfect is in reported speech. This is when you are reporting what another person said. For example, here's an actual, what we call actual speech. Kathy, I jumped out of an airplane. To change this to reported speech, we can say, Kathy said she had jumped out of an airplane. Here we're using past perfect to talk in reported speech about something in the past. So those are the two main uses of past perfect. When we're talking about two events that happened in the past, one before the other, or when we're using reported speech. And I should add about how to form the negative of past perfect. Here we will use the word not, had not, or we can use the contraction hadn't. For example, Leo's friends hadn't eaten dinner with him before. This was the first time. Our last perfect tense is future perfect. We form this with a future form of have, like will have, am going to have, is going to have, are going to have, and the past participle. Remember, we use past participle for all of the perfect tenses. So with future perfect, we are looking to the future and we're saying that some event or action will happen and finish before another event in the future. Remember, time relationship is always important with the perfect tenses. So let's imagine that we are in English class. We are on day 1, let's say September 1st, and we are thinking about the end of the semester, maybe December 1st. We'll say, by the end of the semester, which is in the future, we will have learned many new words. We will have taken 3 tests. We will have made many friends. We won't have had any problems. So that's future perfect. We're thinking about 2 things in the future, and one happens before the other. And now let's look at our last group, our last 3 tenses. These are the perfect progressive tenses. We have present perfect progressive, past perfect progressive, and future perfect progressive. With all 3 of these, we are going to form these tenses with a form of have and the word been, and then a main verb in ing form. These are progressive tenses, so remember, we need to talk about action. And they're perfect tenses also, so time relationship is important. Let's start with present perfect progressive. Present perfect progressive has 2 main uses. With since or for, we use present perfect progressive to say how long an action has been in progress, something that started in the past and is still happening right now. For example, the baby has been sleeping for 30 minutes. The baby started sleeping 30 minutes ago, and the baby is sleeping now. The baby has been sleeping for 30 minutes. Or, I have been working since 8 o'clock. I'm working now. I started working at 8 o'clock. So this started in the past and is still happening right now. So that is present perfect progressive with since or for. We can also use present perfect progressive without since or for. And here it has a little different meaning. It has a meaning that an action was in progress recently or lately. For example, I've been thinking about buying a new car. This means that recently I spent time thinking about buying a new car. I've been thinking about buying a new car. Or, Karen hasn't been playing much volleyball these days because her back hurts a lot. So here we're talking about a repeated activity not happening recently. Our next to last verb tense is past perfect progressive. We don't use this verb tense a lot, but we are doing a complete list of 12 verb tenses here, so we need to include it. We form past perfect progressive with had, been, and then our verb in ing. And we use this to talk about an action that was in progress before another action. That's the first use. The duration of that action in progress is what's important to us here. Lisa had been talking for 20 minutes when someone finally told her to stop. So here Lisa started talking, she talked for 20 minutes, and then someone told her to stop. In this sentence, Lisa had been talking for 20 minutes when someone finally told her to stop. The duration of that first action, Lisa had been talking, is what is important to the speaker. That's what the speaker wants us to focus on. Lisa had been talking for 20 minutes when someone finally told her to stop. That was an example with for. We can also use past perfect progressive without since or for. When we use past perfect progressive without since or for, it's still talking about an activity that was in progress close in time to another activity in the past. Let me give you a couple examples. I walked into the room and everyone stopped talking. I think they had been talking about me. So I think this action, they were talking about me, happened just before I walked into the room. Or rather, I think that action was in progress right before I walked into the room. Or, the kids looked tired. They'd been playing for a long time. Sophie looked like she had been crying. I think this action of crying happened very, very recently. Our last verb tense in our complete list is future perfect progressive. We don't use this tense very much, but we're making a complete list of tenses, so let's look at this one too. We form it by using a future form of have, like will have, is going to have, am going to have, are going to have, then been, and the verb in ing. And we're going to talk about a future time and how long an action is in progress before that future time. We can say, by the time Stan retires next year, he will have been working at the same company for 20 years. So this means at a future time next year, we are thinking how long an action was in progress until that time. We can also say, he is going to have been working at the same company for 20 years. So there you have it, a complete list of all 12 verb tenses in English. Thanks for watching.